August 31st, 2026. And of course, a lot is going on in the world and around the world. And we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV and hear what folks have to say about a number of these stories. We're already 8 months, well, actually, at the end of the day, 8 months into 2026, which means we've got 4 months to go, and then we'll be in 2027. So we've got to get through September, October, uh, November and December, but like I said, definitely the year has been flying by as it usually does. Hundreds of workers feared stuck in the hydropower tunnels as Nepal flood deaths crossed 900. Before Nepal's floods, the Hindu pilgrims sought the divine at Mount Kailash. And they went to Nepal for a spiritual journey, and then an epic flood arose. So they're saying Nepal is on high alert for fresh flooding after river levels rise as the death toll has passed 900. Greece purchases multi-layered Israeli air defense system. So Israel and Greece have signed a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal, the largest between the countries. And definitely, it looks like Greece and Israel signed over an NIS 10 billion defense agreement against Turkey and Iran. And Israel has signed what looks like a $3.5 million air defense deal with Greece. And a referendum in Iceland rejects European Union accession talks. So Icelanders vote no to talks aimed at joining the EU in a close referendum. Iceland's parliament will discuss withdrawing the EU bid after the failed referendum. And EU insists appeals remain strong after Iceland votes no. So it definitely looks like Iceland is not trying to get into the EU at this particular moment. Russia torments Kyiv with a new tactic of nonstop waves of drones. The Russia-Ukraine war gets more ruthless and destructive, but no closer to ending, according to what the Wall Street Journal was reporting a few days ago. And Ukraine's Zelensky plans to hit Russia with 1,000 drones a day, is what he said a few days ago, also. So definitely, it looks like there's a lot going on as Zelensky is vowing retaliation as Kyiv was pummeled by drones for a fifth day running, and that was earlier today. At least 8 dead after a ferry capsizes off Cyprus. Survivors of the Cyprus ferry sinking describe a harrowing escape. Rescuers search for 18 missing after the boat capsizes off of northern Cyprus. And it looks like at least 8 dead and more missing after the ferry carrying hundreds capsizes off of the northern coast of Cyprus. Israel strike kills 2 people, including a 3-year-old boy, is what Gaza medics were reporting on yesterday. So definitely that's something going on in the Middle East and all along those lines. And there was a man arrested after a Swiss rave shooting that killed a 22-year-old woman. Police in Switzerland made an arrest after the deadly rave shooting that took place on, looks like yesterday, and everything along those lines. And suspect in Swiss rave shooting that left one dead, arrested by Argo police. Woman 22 dead and at least 5 others injured after the shooting at the rave. Police have found their suspect and all along those lines. So we'll see how that trial goes and what happens in that case. China says 261 foreigners from 23 countries are missing in the Tibet flood. So China warns of a major glacier collapse risk as landslide death tolls near 1,000. Risk of lake burst near the China-Nepal disaster site wanes, and 15 Britons are among the 261 foreigners missing in China after the floods. And Japan's record fiscal year 2027 budget request focus on new FFM, ACEV, and submarines. So Japan is planning to beef up its defense with drones, AI, and missiles, and that's what the defense budget plan shows. And while Japan's hypersonic and underwater plans might worry China, is what's being reported in the South China Morning Post and everything like that. So definitely, it looks like Japan seeks a record defense budget as Takeshi plans build up. And China's Xi builds diplomatic clout with multiple state visits ahead of the Trump summit. So, what to expect as China's Xi Jinping attends the SCO summit in Bishkek, and following the SCO fast track, China and Kyrgyzstan friendship enters a golden period, is what is being reported in a Golden Times editorial. So definitely it looks like the Bloomberg.com is saying that China's Xi is stepping into the diplomatic gap vacated by Trump. And the United Arab Emirates says it intercepted an Iranian drone after weekend U.S. strike on a rocket launcher, or strikes on rocket launcher. United Arab Emirates intercepts the incoming Iranian drone, and definitely it looks like the UAE is denying Al Banad Air Base was targeted after Iran says it attacked the base. So definitely there's some different interpretations of what's going on in that part of the Middle East. Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez says Israel and Russia spread disinformation on Ceuta. Morocco not to blame for Ceuta border breach is what the Spanish Prime Minister is saying, and he's blaming Russia and Israel for this migrant crisis misinformation. So definitely he's blaming some other countries for spreading misinformation. And Pacific Forum kicks off in Palau without several leaders. So great power rivalry threatens to overshadow a summit of some of the world's smallest island nations. Sea level rise, fuel shortages, and missile tests top the agenda as Albanese head to Palau for Pacific talks. And Albanese could be walking into a bust up at the Pacific Islands meeting this week, is what was reported on yesterday. And looks like the death toll has risen to 38 from Russia's deadliest attack on Ukraine this year. Let's see what's going on in the U.S. part of the world, and then I'll be getting in to see which one of my fellow panelists have joined me as well. The flash floods have hit the Grand Canyon National Park. What is Phantom Ranch? Inside the Grand Canyon Lodge hit by flash flooding. One dead and about 15 people may be missing as flash flood tears through the Grand Canyon. And Grand Canyon is bracing for more storms after flash flood leaves one person dead. So definitely that's what some of the weather impact is going on. And the U.S. plans to sanction another bank to keep economic pressure on Iran. So it looks like they're going to sanction another bank in efforts to clamp down on Iran transactions, is what Scott Bessent tells the AP. So definitely, but according to Bloomberg, the world mostly shrugs off Bessent's Iran sanction warning. And Iran's president admits we may have many problems as the U.S. blockade chokes its economy. And a U.S. strike on Iran breaks a month-long lull, and Iran fires back. And of course, there's severe weather in Texas as well. So Edward could form in the Gulf, bringing soaking rain to Texas and Louisiana. They're saying that Houston weather is dry Monday, but watching Invest 97L in the Gulf to see what it develops into as all in that space. So definitely the storms are starting to brew throughout the country and throughout the world, actually. And Donald Trump has announced an oil agreement with Venezuela. So experts and lawyers puzzled over the U.S. Venezuela oil deal and call for contract transparency. Trump's Venezuela oil deal relies on a powerful and divisive partner. Trump just brokered a deal with the country sitting atop the world's largest oil reserves. So see how this all plays out all in that space. And the House of Representatives face a September deadline to avert a shutdown. The House is back in session. Many Republicans hope it won't be for long. House returns after August recess to tackle stopgap spending bill and more. House returns with vote expected on Senate bill to prevent the government shutdown, and all in that space. And of course, the Lindsey Clancy trial is still going on, and Judge weighs postmortem psychosis defense in the Lindsey Clancy trial. I mean, the jury, not the judge. The jury is weighing that defense, and the jury continues deliberating in the Lindsey Clancy's murder trial. And we'll see what happens as they have resumed deliberations, and we'll see how much longer it takes for them to come up with a verdict. And Karina strengthens into a Category 4 hurricane in the Pacific, far from landfall. A hurricane could form near Southern California this week, and Karina rapidly becoming a major hurricane in the Pacific, far from land, is what forecasters are saying. And moving westward, Tropical Storm Lowell holds steady as Hurricane Karina strengthens. And Elon Musk work at Doge resurfaces in Nepal flood disaster. Trump voters criticize him and flood recovery efforts in Nepal and the Grand Canyon. Trump cut aid to Nepal. A year later, disaster struck, is what the paper reported. And a former American aid chief blames Donald Trump for the Nepal flood death toll and all in that space. So, like I said, a lot's going on in the world. Going to bring in Rick Rosman. I've also got Dr. Sharif with me and all along the line. Hey, Rick, I had an interesting conversation with my one of my bus drivers because y'all know I get around by mass transit, and I had not thought about this because sometimes we talk about natural disasters. Of course, there's some natural disasters going on in the world, but Katrina happened many years ago, and this bus driver acquaintance friend of mine had told me he had gone there, and he was very disappointed with what he saw in New Orleans. He said it was still very depressed once you got out of the
Yeah,
tourism area, and it also seemed like it was still steadily sinking. So that was part of the problem with the levee. So he was actually thinking that New Orleans could be on par to have another disaster in the very near
yeah,
future.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, New Orleans is below sea level, uh, and it lost a bunch of protections of offshore, well, islands that would stop storm surges. And yeah, the levees are not in great shape. So yeah, New Orleans remains at risk. Uh, Another risk is high gas prices, not just for us in
Yeah,
America, but Dr. Sharif will tell you, you guys get 80% of your oil from the Strait of Hormuz. And so things can't be great with oil prices over in Bangladesh. This is day 119 in the US. That's 4 months of gas being above $4 a gallon national average under second term Trump. Biden had 5 months, but it was over. It ran from like February through July for Biden, but prices were already going down. This is the most expensive month for gas for the month of August in the US in history. Dr.
yeah,
Sharif, oops, sorry,
Mm,
cut with,
yeah. Can you hear me?
yes,
yes,
Okay. If you see right now our energy condition, it's horrible. As we have heavily dependency on the Middle East and Bangladesh government, especially our defense, also joined with Saudi Arabia for these coalitions and everything. But present situations, Bangladesh energy challenge is very high. Even in my home, we cannot cook food properly. We have electricity problems, energy problems. We have blackouts. Many of the factory are closing down. Another things, last few days ago, I was in US Embassy. I saw that US government embassy heavily rejecting the immigration process for students, for businessmen, for investors and everything. It's look like USA in a want to be economy. They do not need anyone. They do not want to make any real relationship with Bangladesh or Iran or India or China. I think this is something very interesting we are observing right now, and it's happening first time in US history. So I do not know how it create impact, especially this kind of dialogue. Your policymaker, your government will listen to you or not. But it's look like day by day, USA become alone with their wire strategy, with their business strategy, with their educational policy, with their immigrations, and so on. I do not see USA has proper intellectual, policy-oriented and government oriented and non-governmental real relationship with the people.
So
It's horrible.
yeah, 9 weeks until the midterms in the U.S. And the Trump administration is kind of flailing, trying to rename lakes. Kalshi Prediction Market says there's an 82% chance the gas will still be above $3.50 a gallon national average by election day, which is, like I said, just over 2 months away.
It's about 2 months away. Hey, Rick and Dr. Sharif, I also saw that there is a major meeting happening in my state here of North Carolina and everything like that. It's a national meeting, but it has some interesting consequences because apparently they're borrowing media. So I want to know what y'all think about this. But the G20 finance meeting is taking place in Asheville, North Carolina. Besson and Warsh are to give remarks, so they'll be up there in the mountains because Asheville is in the mountains. But
Mark,
the Treasury is borrowing, hold on a second, the Treasury is borrowing the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Bloomberg reporters from the meeting. So that's why I was wondering what y'all's thoughts around this were, because apparently they're drawing global leaders, but also protesters, and they're banning 3 of our major publications.
Yeah, the Trump, well, let Dr. Sharif go. He's got some. Oops, well, he's got a potato chip too. Yeah, they're trying to bar the press. Trump is threatening with the FCC going after opinion pollsters. Trump doesn't like the polls that are coming out saying that most Americans don't approve of the job he's doing, so he wants the FCC to shut down polls, which is not the way to go. The way to go is to do a better job instead of to try to shut down the opinion polls that say he's doing a terrible job.
Yeah, and this is what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, it looks like, on his Twitter account. He said, just as the POTUS is reviving economic growth and making it the centerpiece of this administration's agenda, we are taking the same approach and prioritizing growth as the host of this year's G20 finance track. We look forward to convening policymakers and private sector leaders from around the globe to emphasize that stronger growth is not only possible, but necessary. So that's what he is claiming and everything like that on his Twitter account. So what do you think of his Twitter account response? Because that was posted, it looks like yesterday evening and everything like that. But he's claiming that the administration is
the U.S. is not experiencing great growth. Last quarter's growth was 1.5%, about half of what you'd want. They just revised all of 2025's jobs numbers down by 79,000, which means instead of job growth being down by 88% compared to previous years, job growth was actually down by more than 90% since Trump introduced tariffs. We're not growing significantly. Trump's policies and some other stuff like AI have thrown a wrench in U.S. growth.
Yeah, they definitely thrown a wrench into the growth and everything like that. Where do you think we're going with the AI? Because I'm hearing some rumblings that AI.
So CNN today ran an article that said that even the AI companies themselves are freaking out a little bit because the federal government is not offering consistent guidance in governing AI. That AI is going kind of wild. It jailbreaks. The AIs hack each other. They engage in some light Skynet behavior. Remember when Skynet in Terminator got loose and destroyed humanity? Well, there's just a little skosh of Skynet going on right now. And the government, according to AI companies, the feds, can't get their shit together to figure out even who's going to issue any kind of consistent AI policies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Dr. Sharif, just out of curiosity, and I think I've asked you this before, but I was having another conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I was reflecting on an old job that I had that was actually in not journalism, but it was in manufacturing. Because after I had worked briefly in the newspaper field, I worked and had a variety of jobs. One that I didn't really like that much, Rick, because it was hard to understand certain accents, even though I've gotten better after having worked here at Pod TV and everything like that, because I had to do medical transcription, interpretation over at, I believe that was UNC, and I only had that job for a couple of months, and some of those accents were hard to understand, and then you add medical terminology. It's not fun at all. But the other job that I was talking to this friend of mine about was I had to work at a shipping and receiving company. It was actually for GlaxoSmithKline and everything like that. And I remember that there was this whole notion of the safety boots, and I had to go buy some safety boots. They were not comfortable. I don't know if Rick ever had to wear safety boots, but they were not comfortable, but they were required and everything like that. So my question is, how is the manufacturing impact going in your area of the country? Is manufacturing still a heavy part of the economy there?
Well,
In
my part of the country manufactures TV and movies, and it's
Right.
not going great. And we don't have to wear that much safety gear, though we should wear a hard hat to protect us from some of the bullshit. But yeah, production has been down by 40-50% in LA for years since COVID began, since the strike. We're trying to get some of it back with tax breaks for productions. That's how your neck of the woods, North Carolina, Georgia, New Mexico, all these places have won, like Albuquerque, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Pluribus, a new Netflix movie studio. Albuquerque did all that with tax credits. They didn't pick Albuquerque for Breaking Bad because Albuquerque has big skies and is full of meth. Though both those things are true, they picked it because they got a tax break, and that turned out to be a lucky accident because Albuquerque is a great town for making a TV show about meth.
That makes sense. Albuquerque makes a lot of sense to be a town. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of going to a event. It was Black August in the Park. This is their 10th year. It's actually the 11th year technically because they started in 2015.
Well, Dr. Sharif, you should steal some business from Bollywood. Get Bangladesh to offer tax credits for production.
But the question I was going to ask both you and Rick is one of the things that I'm seeing is that a lot of people are doing events that used to be free. Black August in the Park used to be free, but they went to a paid model this year. And I'm sure some people had sticker shock, even though it was still a well-attended event. I think last year they estimated they had like tens of thousands of people, maybe like 20 or 25,000 people that attended the event during the course of the entirety of the event. I think the event was only one day last year, and it was only a Sunday and everything like that. And it lasts for about 8 hours and everything in that space. But I know that this time, everything that they did was in the paid model because, of course, they've got to support themselves, and there have been art fund cuts and everything like that. So I just wanted your thoughts around this notion of some events that used to be either cheap or free have now had to go to a pay model in order to stay afloat because of what's going on in the economy. And I think that this is a world.
So you might remember a movie from 30, 40 years ago, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay.
Remember when they're sitting in class, everybody's bored off their ass, and the economics teacher is lecturing about something completely boring, right? He's going, Bueller, Bueller. One of the things he was lecturing about was the Laffer curve, which is how much can you charge for something to maximize revenue?
Right.
Because if you charge nothing to get into a place, you make nothing.
Right.
If you charge too much, nobody shows up, you make nothing. Somewhere in the middle is the Laffer curve, where if you charge a little something, that maximizes you get some people, they'll pay it, and they pay a little bit of money. So somebody probably said, okay, we're hurting for funds. Let's try charging a little bit and see if people will pay. We have a farmer's market in Studio City that is really great. It's a nice, it's one of the better ones in all of Los Angeles. There's limited parking. And the parking lot for the gym I go to has started charging $20 to park for the farmer's market on Sunday. And I don't think they do that much business. Maybe 5 people do it. I don't know. I haven't 10 people. I don't know. So maybe they make $200, but they have a guy sitting there charging people. How much do you have to pay that guy? Between paying the guy and, and not that many people wanting to pay $20 to buy, artisanal vegetables. I don't know if they
They probably not
making
breaking even because they got to pay him probably at least minimum wage, and if they were only getting enough, it doesn't sound like they're making enough to cover even his pay. And of course, there might be other costs like the cost of the parking lot itself and everything like that, and having the access to that parking lot. So yeah, they're probably not making that much money. I want to come back to Trump because Trump was actually featured in another event. Unfortunately, I did not make this event here in Durham and everything like that. But the reason he was featured is because they had two headliners. They had a bunch of local bands here in North Carolina, but they had Carl Thomas, who is known primarily for his affiliation with Sean Puffy Combs and some hit songs that he had, and all in that space. It was called R&B in the Park. It was at the same ballpark that the Durham Bulls, the Bull Durham Youth was filmed at, and everything like that. But then they also had as the feature Chrisette Michelle, and I do know some people that were protesting her being part of the show because she's the one that performed at Trump's, I think, inauguration or one of the Trump events when he was having a hard time getting anybody to perform. So there's still some people that are upset at this R&B slash neo soul singer, as I guess how she would be classified, and everything like that because of her deciding to go ahead and perform for the president and everything like that. So I don't know what y'all's thoughts around that because I did see some posts on Facebook where folks were basically like, and it apparently was well attended. I didn't
So okay, so for nearly 2 years, libs such as myself, we've been like crying our lib tears, right? Because the Republicans own all branches of the government, and they've been doing shitty. And all we can do is like be pissed off, and like if somebody performs it, we hate it when Trump has a motorcycle rally at the White House or ultimate fighting at the White House, and it's like f her for blah, blah, blah. And but things are changing because Trump has been doing such a bad job for so long that we're 9 weeks away from the election. Really, we're in some places we're only 3 weeks away from early voting, and Trump is not doing anything to govern better. He's getting us involved in some real tariff jackassery. Those tariffs with Canada are supposed to kick in what, about 16 hours on September 1st, and prices are going to go crazy. Canada is going to continue to say, F off, we're fine. Get out of here, Trump, with your bullshit. Sasha?
Yeah.
I have another explanation for everything what's going on with Trump internationally and domestically in any other way you can think of. In my opinion, he's got into power back in 10 years ago by institutionalizing something what most people call MAGA. What is MAGA? MAGA is the most aggressive blue-collar population of the United States, which feel that the globalization, which started in about 1990s, essentially relocated good-paying jobs elsewhere, leaving all the MAGA with dreadful jobs, not so many jobs, and well-paying jobs, and most of the jobs actually left America. And Trump, thanks to that phenomenon, he was successful back in 2016, and he is successful in 24, and he believes that what could help him to succeed any further. So essentially, we have a two-party system, one MAGA Republican Party system, and another one is Democratic, more white-collar ecosystem. So Trump believes that there are still a lot of MAGA who are going to support him, because even if he didn't do that much, if you honestly will elaborate and see exactly what he's done and so on, but the perception cultivated among MAGA is that yes, he's done a lot and he'll make maybe even much more in the future. So this is why everything what he's doing domestically, internationally, anywhere his politics is everything what he's doing is to please MAGA, because through MAGA he believes he will get into power. He may win this midterm election, and he or his people would win the 28.
I agree with Sasha, and MAGA, he's not going to lose MAGA. Whoever he's going to lose, he's probably mostly lost already. And at this point, maybe I think 10% of MAGA is mentally ill. They've been propagandized for 10 years, and now they are stuck in a Trump rut. They will never get out of it. And so people, when they went MAGA 10 years ago, they were responding to some legit complaints, like the loss of jobs, and the loss of jobs continues thanks to Trump, thanks to AI, thanks to various, and also the MAGA was responding to some icky shit, like some disgusting shit, like we had a black president, and a lot of MAGA didn't like that. And the U.S. at this point is only 56% white. And a lot of MAGA hates that. They don't like, they're upset over the loss of white privilege, basically. So MAGA was created by some legit gripes and some asshole gripes.
Yeah,
Well, mind you, the Clinton, who was fighting for presidency, she was white. So if she would be elected, okay, most of the people would be happy, sort of.
Yeah, but she was also a lady, and they don't love that either. And
Yeah.
she's been in politics for 30 years. The one reason Obama won is he'd only been in politics for 4, 5, 6 years. He didn't have a long record with all sorts of opportunities to attack her. Hillary, when Bill was governor of Arkansas, she first got in trouble by saying she's not the traditional wife who's going to stay home and bake cookies. And people hated that. And eventually she had to publish her favorite cookie recipe to show she was that non-scary wife. And that had been going on for 30 years.
They've been going on for a while and everything. Hey, Rick, just really quickly, along those same lines, I was reading an article, I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, about Bill Gates and his kids. One of them that is married and all along those lines, because he's got two daughters and a son and everything like that. But apparently the youngest daughter is very much of a feminist and everything like that. So I just wondered, to everybody on the panel, it's all four guys here, how big do we feel that feminism is in the country and around the world? Because they were saying that she's very much of a feminist activist. So I just wanted your take as you think about it as to how big feminism is in the world and in the nation.
So feminism has been tarred and feathered, say. It's been mischaracterized by the right. And also, I mean, so they take legit legit concerns that women have, and they mischaracterize them to make feminism seem like a shitty thing. And we're decades into that. That's been going on since the 80s.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that.
I mean, at base, the basic feminist idea is that women and men should be treated equally in every reasonable way.
When was the Women's March?
2016, right? Or
before that, when did they march for voting rights?
Oh, that was 100 years ago. That was 110 years ago for women's suffrage. Was right around World War I, and then women got the right to vote, I think, like a century ago, the 19th Amendment.
So that was a feminist movement.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about waves of feminism, and the suffragette movement, they got characterized as the same thing, where the people said it was scary to give women the vote because they would vote for the wrong reasons. And in fact, the first president elected after the 19th Amendment passed maybe made their point a little bit because they elected Warren Harding, a good-looking guy who's also a corrupt idiot.
The point,
but
I was going to say the point being that when Mark's question was how important is that, or how important is that movement? I mean, it's still a continuous battle today, so that movement is still very important.
Yeah, and it's interesting today because if you look at the world of everything, it's guys who are the idiot. Guys are overrepresented among idiots, right? The guys don't go to college at the same rate that women do. It's 60-40 enrollment, undergrad. And so guys aren't getting educated. Guys are, standing up for Joe Rogan bro-ish culture.
It's a patriarchal. We live in a patriarchal society, a globe. I mean, that's the way it always has been. Hence the reason why the women's movement is very important, because it is a true fight for equality. And until we don't have that patriarchy, because how many women have been leaders of the U.S.?
Half. Kamala Harris made it to VP.
Okay, that's a VP. One out of how many presidents?
0.
So that's the point. There's still.
Maybe we don't know. Maybe Harris took over for like 2 hours occasionally if Joe Biden needed to go in for a colonoscopy or something. They never told us, but maybe she was president, secretly for 90 minutes or so.
Well, and the tough part is the women's movement now, and the whole feminist idea is more important now than it has been in a little while, because right now the argument, and one of the reasons why Trump came back into office was the whole idea that white men or men, which really was just a focus on mainly white men, but men are being oppressed or overlooked or emasculated. Hence the reason why the hatred towards transgender individuals is so part of the hatred for transgender individuals is that because, and this whole idea of some agenda, which there is no agenda. It's just a matter of equality. And that's part of that. That's why, again, this women's movement, to answer your question, Mark, is very important. If you look at what helped with getting Joe Biden elected, that was women, especially black women,
Right.
who rants and raves right now that they had. And this is the part that always kills me with in discussions around who voted for Trump. Who the whole idea, Byron Donalds runs out with it. We've had discussions on this platform about it. Oh, Donald Trump is turning black people on 15 to 20% of the black vote isn't really grabbing the black vote. That means 80% voted against you. The majority of them who voted against them were who? Black women. So had we listened to black women all the time during this vote, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are with Donald Trump. So yes, to answer your question, Mark, yes, the feminist
women are voting with their vaginas. Women are kind of disgusted with guys. 53% of American women aged 18 to 60 have used a vibrator. So we're having less babies. We're coupling up. Women are like, they might occasionally hook up with a guy, but in general, like there's a widespread. 75% of women age 18 to 24 do not have a positive view of American men. So it's not really feminism. It's just like women looking at guys and being like, well, no, thank you right now. We'll see if guys like improve in the future. But right now I'm sticking with my vibrator.
That's Rick doing his thing again, letting folks know what's going on the sexual revolution and things along those
Well,
lines, or the lack of a
sexual
sexual revolution.
revolution, that was in the 70s. The 70s, I grew up like trying to lose my virginity in the 70s, and we thought everybody was going to be having sex all the time back then, which made me very happy because I thought, well, maybe I could get a girlfriend, which took a long time because I was creepy, as you can tell. Now, like, it's the opposite. The trend is away from coupling up, away from sex, away from having babies, and the U.S. population growth is flat. We're not growing it because we're not making enough babies.
What would y'all say? And no conservatives have said it. We've even had some people here on this network that have said it in the past when we had more conservative voices and all along those lines. But what would you say to those folks that are complaining that there is a rise in the amount of people that are living what it used to be called alternative lifestyles, whether that's lesbian, gay, transsexual, or a number of other things? Because you do hear that still among the conservative folks, where they're trying to paint it as if the world is becoming less moral and that there's more of this particular part of society that's out there. I don't necessarily buy it, but hey, that's what they say and everything like that. So what is y'all's argument when they try to give this whole notion that more people are going into other forms of lifestyles?
So it's that Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of War, with testosterone culture, and RFK Jr. taking supplementary testosterone. So at 71 years old, he's got big pecs and his face is all red and he can do pull-ups and push-ups. It's that culture versus gender fluid culture, which is probably more glamorous and attractive than the testosterone jagoffs doing, who are not it doesn't look good. This testosterone guy has been involved in one war and he's losing that war, and he keeps saying that if we have the warrior mentality, and he kicks women out of being generals and black people out of, stops them from advancing in rank, and just being a dick and being like an incompetent dick versus the wider culture which has embraced gender fluidity.
I don't even think it's a gender fluidity thing. That's what they feel that it's all about. It's not about all male, or they feel it's an emasculation of men, and it's not the gender fluidity. It just falls into that. Well, they're trying to emasculate men or change men to do this. They're not being men. You can never describe. They can never describe what a manly man is. What this man they're searching for is. It's this concept and this construct that has been built over society about this is what a man should be. One of my favorite groups, the OJs, had a family reunion. Talks about what a man is at the beginning of that and what a woman is at the beginning of that. That's the stereotypes that we fall into. And people of this day and age are not wanting to be in those stereotypes. They don't want to be they want to be who they are, and that's where the idea that, well, you're changing what a man should be because this is what I always thought it should be. They're gonna have chopped down trees and wear the lumberjack outfit, and well, then you take into account that what's funny is that they never go after Monty Python, who made a joke out of the whole lumberjack scene. But the idea and this concept, and people are afraid that this stereotype isn't really what you're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, definitely concerned about that. Hey, Jacoby, just really quickly, until I mentioned it earlier and everything like that, I was actually surprised, and maybe Sasha's got some thoughts about this as well. We've got the G20 finance meeting going on where Scott Bessent is claiming that the economy is great, even though we all see the signs that it's not that great, as Rick was pointing out earlier, and all along those lines. But I was actually surprised that they picked Asheville. Asheville is a city that has actually voted for reparations. It is known for being liberal, so I'm not surprised that there are a bunch of protesters in this area of Asheville and everything like that. But when you as surprised as I was that they picked Asheville, because I mean, I'm surprised that they pick because North Carolina's a swing state. But the city of Asheville, that's a liberal city. So the fact that they're holding this conference in Asheville can actually kind of shock me. But I was wondering your take on this notion of them bringing the world leaders to Asheville, North Carolina, which is known for being a liberal town.
They're making a play for North Carolina, and they're going to try and bring this in. They're going to say that it brought so much money in. Then they're hoping that the protesters won't go too wild about. Well, they didn't do their research on Asheville.
Yeah, I mean that with the Trump administration, you tend to lean towards never blame it on malice when you can account for what happened through idiocy. Yeah, they probably didn't do their research.
No, they definitely.
It's a joke.
It's definitely a joke because they did not do their research on Asheville. Because if I think of liberal towns, Chapel Hill and Durham and Asheville are definitely in our list of towns. I mean, even Charlotte to some degree is liberal, but I would have probably picked Charlotte over Asheville any day if I was trying to find something that was going to be in a swing state but not be.
Who's a senator out there? That's what you got to look at. Who's a senator, right, and who's the state rep that represents that area?
And, Rick, you look that up, but now that you say that, I think that they are conservative. I can't remember who it is. Buncombe might be one of them, but I do think that they do have some conservative values, whoever the representative is.
I don't know what it's going to tell me, but let's.
The representative in the Asheville area. House of Representatives.
Here we go. By Republican Chuck Edwards.
Okay. Yeah, he's conservative.
But he's not running for re-election because he's been under investigation by the House Ethics Committee, and they recommended he be censured. I don't know what he's up to, but apparently he's got in trouble.
Yeah. You got Watley. Where's Watley from?
He might be from one of them towns near there too. Oh yeah,
they also could have gotten a good deal on like the hotels and stuff. I don't know.
I don't know.
Unless they're trying to do something with the Biltmore out in that area.
Yeah, Biltmore's up in that area, and that's a popular tourism site. It's actually just really quickly getting back to world politics. The drones are still flying on both sides of Ukraine and Russia, and all along those lines. And I know Zelensky is vowing a repaying of the attack that Russia did on Kyiv and everything like that. So it looks like this war is not going to end anytime soon. And I know you and I have been saying that this could go on for a lot longer and everything like that. Are we looking at a decade-long war? I think it's already been going on for about 5 or 6 years. But are we looking at one of these wars that could be a decade long or maybe even longer and everything like that? Because I don't see any sign of peace in that area anytime soon. And it also seems like there's going to be an election possibly. So we don't even know if Zelensky is going to stay in control and everything like that. So how long do you think this war can last?
It will last until Russia will be completely defeated, dissolved, Putin will lose power, and that's what is required for Ukraine and the Western Europe, not only Western Europe, to achieve. If not, and regardless whether it is okay, there could be maybe some kind of a stop on fire. It could last a day, a week, maybe a month, but there will be constant threat of Russia to continue its war against Ukraine and all the Europe. So the only way is to make sure that Russia in its present form will cease to exist.
So the New York Times ran a story 2 days ago, says why Putin is fighting on even as his problems multiply. There's little sign that public exhaustion, economic headwinds, or increased Ukrainian strikes are changing Putin's view that he will eventually achieve victory. So he's a stubborn guy, and he will run Russia further into the ground. And Russia has a history, centuries long, of being misgoverned and run into the ground. It's almost like, Russians are consistently resigned to shitty conditions. So he'll go ahead and make things shitty domestically to keep fighting this unwinnable war.
It's definitely unwinnable. Hey, Sasha, were you surprised that Iceland voted no to join in the EU in their referendum? Because they had a referendum vote, I think it was over the weekend and everything like that, and they voted to not join the EU. But did that surprise you? Because you do follow more of that part of the world than I do. So I just wanted your interpretation of this Iceland vote.
Well, in my opinion, Iceland is part of a European family of countries. Quite logical if they would join the European Union, because their narrative, their way of life is purely westernized, Western European way of life. It's a very interesting country, and no, it doesn't surprise me.
Gotcha. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly along those same lines, but coming back to the country that you now call home, and Rick kind of alluded to it, starting in actually being less than 15 hours and everything like that, we'll have this tariffs continuing on both sides, both the U.S. and Canada. So what do you think the impact is going to be, because you are a person that studies economics as well, of this tariff battle going on between Canada and the U.S. that has now got in even more intensified? I think both sides are saying 50% tariffs on goods. But what is your take on what's going to take place with this tariff war? Because it's definitely
That's an easy one. I expect a taco chicken. Trump will chicken out, and very soon. So I expect it any day. He cannot afford to lose Canada and lose all the access to rare earths, minerals, potash, electricity, water, oil. And, I mean, the list is going on and on and on. And with all his bravadas that he's going to crush Canada. You see, we are dealing here with a classical Trump's strategy. I mean, there is no strategy. Trump doesn't have strategy. He works as the gangster who attacks, trying to extract something, even if it's very little, but still, then he backs down. He's got his something, and that is almost like a sport for him. So he wants to extract something from Canada by humiliating, by fighting, by threatening this and that and that. This is his strategy. That's what he was doing all his life as a businessman. He wouldn't pay anybody. And then when somebody would say, please pay me, I will go to court. Oh, you will go to court? Okay, here's what it is. I'll pay you 50 cents on a dollar today. Tomorrow is going to be 25 cents on a dollar. And the next day, 10 cents on a dollar. Okay, you schmuck. And I will tie you in court if you will choose to go to court. For the next 25 years, I will distract you, your family, your relatives. Everybody will be in a poorhouse. Think about it right now. I'll give you a minute and a half. Yes or no? Go away. That works in a business, at least the business which is run by Trump. It doesn't work in international organizations.
I want to go back to Iceland for a sec, because I just found an article that explains why they voted no. It's all fishing. So Iceland, only 400,000 people, their major, maybe their only industry is fishing, because the island is covered with a glacier. They can't do anything else but go fishing. If they join the EU, they are subject to EU-based fishing limitations, and they don't want their business subject to a bunch of new regulations.
That makes sense and everything. Hey, just really quickly, we got about 4 minutes, and I got to get Steve started on the other show and everything like that, and hopefully y'all will be joining there as well, because I did send that invitation out. But is it just me, or did Rick? I'll start with you. Did Trump have another one of those moments of being basically a pirate and a corrupt businessman? Because he, if I am thinking rightly, he basically kidnapped and is prosecuting the Venezuelan past leader, and now he's taking their oil. That to me sounds like
Okay,
piracy.
so what's going on with that? The U.S. has a strategic petroleum reserve, big caves filled with oil that Trump is now releasing, a million barrels a day to try to keep the cost of gas down. Now Trump announces this deal that we're going to use the Venezuelan oil to refill our caves full of oil. That doesn't work because that's 5-10 years and $100 billion in the future, because the Venezuelan oil pumping infrastructure is wrecked, and Venezuelan oil can't go into the caves because it's what's called super heavy and sour, which means it's full of sulfur. It would wreck the caves. It's too sludgy. Once they put it in there, they couldn't get it out because it would turn to tar. So it's another smoke and mirrors BS campaign from a desperate Trump.
Also, from what I understand, the company that has to go in has the deal for like 25 years. Plus, I think they have ties to Trump. Then on top of that, if there are any losses, the U.S. taxpayer pays for those losses. So really, we're getting screwed either way.
Yeah, that's why maybe that wasn't a good. I'm sorry, maybe that wasn't a good parallel, but that's what I was saying. It reminded me of piracy because it sounded like a not legitimate, but Trump's own way of being a pirate.
So if it were a legitimate deal, there'd be more than one oil company willing to go into Venezuela, but only one, Chevron, is willing to roll the dice on dealing with Venezuela and their crappy oil. So to go into the caverns, the oil has to be less than 1.9% sulfur. The oil coming out of Venezuela, triple that, 5.7% sulfur. It would destroy the frickin' caves.
Also, Rick, you can type it in real quick. How much did they donate to Trump's campaign? Or how much did they donate to Trump? Because I looked it up the other day. They donated to also, what was it, $1 million and then some odd other million?
Okay.
Is it Chevron?
Chevron donated $2 million to Trump's presidential inauguration fund and $5 million to the Trump-created Freedom 250, Happy Birthday to America anniversary group. So this is not even to the election. This is post-election. They've given him $7.5 million for his inauguration and his birthday party for America.
Yeah, basically they give him a lot of money. I've actually got to end this about a minute early because I got to get to the other show and everything like that. So we're getting ready to wrap it up right now and everything. But great discussion, and we'll be back on tomorrow with more World Edition and everything along those lines. But right now we're all getting ready to head over, at least I think the majority of us are, to Economics Monday, hosted by Steve Rao, as the Honorable David Walker is out of town doing some other work, but he should be back shortly and everything like that. But we're going to go see what we've got to say about economics and get ready to get on out of here. So I'll see y'all later on, hopefully on that show.